excited to share some stuff with you today. I don't know about you, but I love a good word die. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. It was my bad attempt at humor. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about today is some really great ways that you can use your word dies. I love word dies, using them on cards. I like the focal point that they bring, and I like all the creative possibilities that I can get out of using a word die. So what I'm going to use today is I'm going to use my new Love word die from Papertrey ink. And this will be available on June 15th. This die is really special to me because it is done with my own hand lettering. So this was my hand lettering turned into a die. And it's pretty exciting. It's pretty cool to see. What I do like about this is the die is all one piece, which is really great. But when you cut it, here, let me show you. The L is separate. That way you can use it either on a card going this way, which is portrait, or a card going this way, landscape. I like having that option, but that the die stays together. Like I said, there's a lot of creative possibilities for using word dies, and so I thought I would go through and just share a whole bunch of my favorite ways to use them, and then that gives you some inspiration and ideas for using some of the word dies in your stash. So the first thing I wanted to show you is one of my favorite tricks to do is to go ahead and take and stack up a bunch of the word dies that have been cut from paper and make them look like a customized embellishment. I think it looks really incredible, and it's so easy to do because, you know, every time you die cut, it's exactly the same because you're using the exact same tool. So to stack all these together, what I do is I go ahead and cut a whole bunch of these from paper and stack them up. I have found that my easiest way to put these together is to use some kind of a glue pen. And I really like this medium one from Nuvo here. I'll show you why. It has this chisel tip, and you can use the point of the tip or the whole flat part. So I will simply run over this whole shape and go ahead and just start stacking these up. And as you can see on this card here, it adds a whole lot of dimension, and it's really makes this pop from your card. Very often when I have a word die like this, I will go ahead and cut a mountain of pieces to go with that because it's fun to experiment, one, and then two, I have a whole bunch of great pieces ready to go to put on a card anytime I need to make a card quickly. I typically cut them from white cardstock because that gives me the most options, but sometimes I discover that I want them to have a little color. So what I like to do is I like to take a little bit of ink and go ahead and add some ink to these images. I'm going to take some Distress Oxide ink here and kind of make an ombre letter here. I like the Distress Oxide inks because I like the finish, I like the coverage, I like the color, and I'm just kind of tapping this off. I'm trying to figure out where my color is at on my sponge here, on my ink applicator, and I'm just going to very gently go in here and add some ink to this. So now we can look at it, and we've got this really great ombre effect there with the love, which is pretty striking. I really like that. The other thing you can do, though, is sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll be honest, I mess it up where I'll get the ink, or, boy, I really had no intention of that ink getting that far there. And so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and actually, I'll go in and I'll do a two-colored one. So let's do a color that kind of works nice with that picked raspberry. We'll take this marmalade here, and we'll just go ahead and ink that. So there you go. So now you've got two ways to use your word die with easy inking techniques. Another really simple and lovely way to add color and pizzazz to your die cut word is to go ahead and use some watercolor. So I have cut this word out from some actual watercolor paper rather than just a standard cardstock. That way I know it can hold up to some of the water and anything that I would like to play around and experiment with it. And so what I can go ahead and do is just go ahead and grab just a little bit of watercolor here. And I'm going to get a little bit more water on my brush so this stays a little more watery. And go ahead and just add some color. And I'm making a mess. I realize that I'm letting it run all over the place, but I kind of want it to, because of the way the paper's cut and this is kind of shaped, I want it to go all the way around the edges. So that's what I'm going to do as I go in and do this here. Let's go and just kind of work some colors along here a little bit. I think that's probably the best part about this, is just going and experimenting. So maybe I'm gonna go a little bit rainbowy here. We'll do some rainbows across the love. Well, I sure hope that you guys are loving all these ideas so far. Oh, sorry, I'm full of them today. I'm so sorry. But another really easy way to step up your die cut words is to stamp on them. You can take a large background stamp. You could take a small image. There's so many things you could do. So I thought it would be fun to take the marbling image from my Modern Plus Marble kit at Papertrey Ink. And I thought it would be cool to add a marble finish to those letters. I thought it might be kind of classy and elegant. So I'll do it in kind of a deeper ink here. Again, I'm just going to kind of line up that word so that the stamping matches up somewhat. So we'll get the bottom half of the word and then we'll go ahead and do the top half of the word too. And check that out. That is pretty cool. With all the cool products out there, there's a lot of things that you can do with die cut words. This one is pretty cool. So what I've done is I have taken and I have die cut a piece of this stamping mask paper. And what this is this is an easy release paper. You simply peel the back off, which is the blue part here. Let me see if I can get it started. And I can't because it's on film, because that's always how that works. There we go. And then this is sticky, but it's not permanent sticky. It's just a repositionable type adhesive thing. This is great for any kind of masking that you want to do, but it's really perfect for going and doing with these dies. I'm simply going to peel the backing off, like I said, famous last words, and go ahead and apply this to just a basic piece of cardstock that I have here. Really like this paper. It's really great. It's simple to use. It cuts easy. It sticks well. It's very nice. All right, so now I have this mask. The whole back of what I have die cut is now stuck to the card, which means nothing's going to come up. I'm not going to get any ruined edges. I'm going to get really sharp, crisp edges when I go ahead and do what I'm going to do next. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use some ink and go right over the top and make an inked background. Let me grab some ink here. Let's just go with this one. I've got this sitting right here. And I'm going to load up this ink applicator. And I'll just kind of go over the center. Now, when you use this ink applicator, you go in a circular motion. So you're going to want to be gentle as you go ahead and build up your background. And the reason I'm saying be gentle is while this paper is stuck to your cardstock, if you get real rowdy with it, it can peel up. And then you might get ink where you don't want it. So just be really gentle. And you can see as I'm loading ink on here that it is real easy to do. I am not being very careful because I am just going quickly through this, but you can build this ink up into layers or you can leave it soft, but we'll just focus on the center right now where the word is. And you can see the E kind of peeled up a little bit there, so I just went back over the top. We'll kind of go over here with some ink and kind of spread this around. All right, so there we've got enough ink down for quick demonstration purposes to create this really cool mask. And when you've got the coverage that you want to have, you can simply peel this up and it comes up easily. It doesn't stick. You could keep the mask if you wanted to, although this one, ink like this, I probably wouldn't. But look at that. I love how crisp and sharp that is. So now you've got another look you can get from your die using this masking paper. You know, other than just inking over the top, you could probably do some watercolor over the top, some background stamps that would be amazing over the top. There's some really cool techniques that you could do using this really great stamping mask paper. Okay, so now it's time to take a look at how to do this gold look that I showed you in my very first card. So not only did I stack up all my layers there, I also on the top layer did this gold dip effect. And there's several ways to do this gold dip effect. So I'm going to show you my favorite ways to do that. It's really easy and a lot of fun. I'm going to start with, again, my die cut word on just some regular cardstock, and I have some gilding flakes. I have a glue pen, and then I'm also going to grab a little brush. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to start with putting the glue towards the bottom of these letters. Now the thing I like about this glue pen is instead of making it be a perfect straight line, you can make it any way you want. So you can make it a little softer edged, if you will, with this glue. It's really hard to see, but what I'm doing is I am applying this glue over the surface here. What's happening is this glue is very light blue when it comes out. And so you can see it as it's going onto your paper. Now I know for you it's difficult to be able to see, but it is a light blue. And it's coming out, it's flowing nicely, and I can just use my pen, and on the top edges here, I'm not being real careful. I'm just kind of making it a little dotted and going ahead and making sure I'm covering all the surfaces that I want to have this gold flaking on. What will happen is as this glue sits here, I'll know that it's ready for the gilding flakes here when it goes from that light blue color that it's coming out as, and it's gonna go to this more opaque, soft white color. If you start putting the flakes on before it is all turned, it will not stick to those places and cause kind of a mess. So do give it a minute or two to just go ahead and sit and dry. I have tried to hurry this process up with a heat tool, but that didn't really seem to make any difference. It didn't seem to speed up or make a change. So you can try it. I just didn't feel like it was worth it. I just let it sit for a couple minutes. Let me kind of, and of course it's gonna stick just a little because it is some glue. Don't worry, I'm gonna kind of bring it up and maybe you can catch that a little bit in there to see that light blue look. These are the gilding flakes that we're going to use, and this jar is very full, and I say this every time. The first time I opened this jar, a sneeze came out of nowhere and these went everywhere, and I'm not kidding. So don't do that, but these are lovely flakes of gold leafing. And what you'll do is you'll pick up these pieces and place them over your glue. The color you get from these is beautiful. They actually have 3 different colors of these, and I love them. I love how easy they are to use. Now the cleanup can kind of be a bummer, so I'd recommend 2 things. Have a like a wet wipe or a baby wipe on hand to clean them up, but also I've seen people use a Swiffer, and that works really well as well. So as I'm waiting for this stuff to change from its milky white, I'll just start showing you what you go ahead and do. You just go ahead and place these flakes over the top of where you've put the glue, and you can be kind of strategic, or you don't have to be strategic at all, and you can just kind of throw pieces down wherever you want, or a whole pile of pieces. I do like that it kind of comes in these flakes, which makes it easy to cover larger surfaces. And like me, if you get a little bit of glue on your finger, you are going to get some of these flakes on your finger, but they'll rub right off, so no big deal. Once I get my surface covered with the foil, what I'm going to do is take this little brush. This is actually like a stencil stipple brush, and I like it because the bristles are stiffer. And I'm going to go ahead and burnish. And what I mean by burnish is push this leafing into the letter. And there you can see how it's revealing itself, and the rest of the flakes just fall away as I am doing a circular motion with my little brush here. Okay, so here we go. One thing I will do is when I pick this up, a lot of times on the edges, the leafing will stick off, so I like to go ahead and take my brush and finish off the edges along there. You can see that I missed a couple spots with the glue, but the nice part about this is all you have to do is just put a little bit more glue there, and when it turns from the light blue to that milky white again, you can go ahead and just cover that up again and you get no problem. So that is how you do the gilding flakes to add this very soft burnished gold look to your letters. Up next, I've got another way for you to do this. So if you're thinking to yourself, Kimberly, I have a sneezing problem and I am now terrified to open a jar of these to make a mess, I have a solution for you. Or if you just haven't picked any of these flakes up yet, I have another option. Again, I have cut the word love. I've just used a basic white cardstock, but again, you could use whatever color you want. I just like to do white so I can play around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat emboss these, which is a really easy way to go ahead and add this exact same look. So I'm going to kind of line my word up again. I'm doing this because this L matches with this. If I just had this word, I wouldn't have to worry about lining that up or that part of the word. But anyway, I'm just going to kind of line this up. All I'm going to do is take my Versamark ink pad here and push it into my letters so that I am adding an ink coverage to my letters. Now this is going to give you a much straighter line of definition, less random than what we did with the glue pen, but they do sell pens that are embossing pens of this exact same ink. So you could go ahead and add in those random lines of looking so that it has that softer finish rather than a straight edge. So once again, the nice part about this is if you miss a spot or you don't get enough powder, you can absolutely go back and build up more layers. In fact, you could build up more layers and make this a really thick piece. Or you could take it one step further. You could heat emboss this entire piece and do several layers and get a very thick, metallic, amazing embellishment to put on your card. So there is another way to get a gold dipped letter. I'm about to share with you my all-time absolute favorite, coolest, mind-blowing technique with the die that I learned years ago ever, and it is still one of my favorite. You can take a die and turn it into a stamp. Yes, you can. I can't tell you how many times I've had a product and I've thought, oh, if only I could stamp with that. You can. And all it takes is some fun foam. And yep, I'm talking about the cheap stuff at the craft store that you buy in bulk for your kiddos to cut apart and play with in the summer. It is an awesome tool for creating a stamp from your die. So what I have done is I've taken my love die and I have cut it from fun foam, and it goes in one pass. It's very easy to do. Now, to get this to stick to my block, what I do is I just take out some good old-fashioned Scotch tape, double-sided tape, and go ahead and run it over my block. And I leave the ends hanging off so it's easier to peel off when I'm finished. There's probably some other products out there that work really well for this, but hey, I've got this on hand. This works really well for me. What I'm going to do, because this is a word, if I were to pick it up like this, it's going to stamp backwards. So what I'm going to do is place it down this way so that I can see where it's going to land and how it's going to sit, and I'm going to pick it up. So I'm going to turn it over and pick it up with my block, just like this. So now it's on there. So now we're looking at it the right way. So this is sticking out on the top. But when I go ahead and I apply ink to this and put it down, it'll stamp the correct way. I took some StazOn Opaque, this cotton white ink, and I inked my foam up, and I took a piece of chalkboard paper, and here is what I got when I inked it up. It looks like a chalkboard. It's so cool. But now, I wanted to run this way with it, but you could use any kind of ink you want on here to stamp it and get really cool results. I wouldn't mix inks on here, so I wouldn't go ahead and try to reuse this, but it's just fun foam, so you can just make these over and over and over again. The other tip I'm going to have for you is it does soak up a little bit more ink than you're used to, so make sure that your surface is good and covered before you go ahead and stamp this image out. But there you go, a really, really cool way to turn your die into a stamp. There are so many things that you can do with the word die, and I have just shared several of them with you. There are endless possibilities. But the last idea I want to leave you with is don't forget about all the cool mediums that you can die cut using your die cutting machine. So you can cut cork paper, which is a thinner cork, which is so fun. What a really cool look that is. Don't forget about one of my favorite materials, that's felt. I love the softer look of that and just the warmth that it adds to a card. Things like glitter paper, wood paper, embossed paper, any of those things. The sky is the limit when it comes to using a word die. So I hope that you have an absolute blast. I hope you love this die as much as I do, and I hope you love being creative with it as much as I do. Have fun die cutting and being creative.